Welcome back, everybody, to the Get Back Guys podcast. What is this, episode 7?
Yes,
I think so.
Well, those two voices, Kyle and Nick, here as always, and returning, Caleb and Zach. You all want to say hello?
Hey.
Bummer for the audio listeners.
Good timing right there.
We wanted to have these two back on to talk about two different NFL divisions and a couple different split up episodes here. I guess technically this would be episode 7 and 8. We'll see. But we're going to first talk with some NBA because we had these guys on for NBA talk at the start of the bubble. Playoffs have started. We got a couple games in. So let's just start with Caleb. Any of your thoughts of how the bubble's regular season ended, and what do you think of these playoff teams and a couple big losses for some number 1 seeds?
Big losses for number 1 seeds. Biggest bummer for me of the NBA season, those New Orleans Pelicans. Everybody was buying the hype, and they stunk. They were really, really bad. They were not good. I was talking to Nick about this privately. They definitely need a new coach. I'm glad they got rid of Alvin Gentry. I like Alvin Gentry. He was an assistant coach for Phoenix. I thought he's a cool guy, but he does not have a good track record as a head coach. So, I don't know. I was talking to Nick. Ty Lue, maybe get something out of Zion, get that dude in shape, and maybe go form a search committee for Lonzo Ball's jump shot. Hopefully they find that sometime. But, yeah, big disappointment from the Pelicans.
I thought they did find it. It looked much different than in the Laker days.
Still bad.
Still bad.
Bad.
How you feeling about them Blazers there, Caleb? You've been talking a lot to me about these Blazers.
Glad I bought Blazer stock. And then mad at myself that I listened to Nick and got off the train right as they won Game 1 against the Lakers. I feel great about the Blazers. I feel too good. I'm irrationally buying more stock now. It's overpriced. I don't care. I'm buying. Give me all of it. I want all the Blazer stock.
Yeah, so for some context, earlier today, Caleb and I made a bet that if the Lakers win the series, Caleb will buy me dinner. And if the Blazers win the series, I will buy Caleb dinner. And I'm feeling pretty good about it, even though they lost Game 1. And to be honest, I mean, my prediction, talking with some of our pals, was that the Lakers would win in 5. And I honestly still feel kind of confident about that, which I know Zach and Caleb are going to take issue with. But I think if the Lakers were going to lose a game, it actually was the first game, just because Damian Lillard's coming off of such an insane streak. And obviously he had an unreal fourth quarter. That obviously those couple of big shots, but the game was really, it was tied her down 2, and then LeBron decided he made one really bad play where he gave it to Caruso with 4 seconds left on the shot clock. That was such a bad play, and that probably cost them the game. But I'm not too worried about it. Anthony Davis isn't going to shoot that bad from the field, and they're not going to shoot 15.6% from 3. That's just not going to happen. They have too many players who've been to the finals versus going up against the 2 best players. Well, not the 2 best players, but Dame's only been to the Western Conference Finals once, and that was playing the Denver Nuggets in round 2 last year, which was not they were not that good of a team, I don't think, for how young they were. And Carmelo Anthony's only made it to 1 Western Conference Finals. I'll take LeBron James. And last time Dame and Anthony Davis went at it in the playoffs, Anthony Davis won. I'm not too worried about the Lakers, to be honest. I still think they're by far the best team in the NBA, even with a rough loss in the first game.
Man, Caleb looks fired up, so say what you're going to say, my guy.
How many points you got to make in a row? We want to talk about it, or we just want a monologue here, man? Listen, I got to respond to one of those, but no, I won't. Listen, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope going 0 for 9 from the field from your starting guard is a problem. Alex Caruso going 1 for 6 and then having that terrible contested 3 trying to get him back is awful. They don't have a 1 or a 2. They just don't. They have no one for those positions. Your third best player is Kyle Kuzma coming off the bench. Listen, even though I made this bet, I still think the Lakers are probably going to win. I'm just very hopeful for the Blazers. I think it's more fun. But man, the Lakers have some big problems. If Anthony Davis can't figure out how to score on this team, if LeBron James can't decide that he's the GOAT and take over the series, you got problems. That one of those two guys has to step up in the big time, and they didn't. They just didn't.
The last little point that I have is, I think Anthony Davis is going to play a lot better, and I think he actually played better than his stat box says, at least in the first 3 quarters. The fourth quarter, he was just kind of non-existent, but he did get to the foul line a lot, and he really slowed down the pace, and he got them back in the game because the Blazers were up big early. And I think Anthony Davis is a big reason that they got back in the game in the second quarter. But I would argue LeBron played mediocre last night, and he had an unreal stat line for playing mediocre. So if LeBron just plays like LeBron,
broke records.
Granted, he's in
last
year
night.
17. Yeah, his stat line's unreal, and he's still, like, I think we all kind of agree that he did not play that great, besides he made a big 3 to tie the game, and then after that he gave it up to Caruso. He wasn't as aggressive in the fourth quarter as he should have been, and so obviously if LeBron doesn't, take that another little leap, then it's going to be a tight series. But I'm still, if they lose game 2 badly, then I'll start to worry. But for right now, it's the first game. They had kind of rested for a whole week. Like LeBron, they had been trying since they beat the Clippers in the first game of the bubble, and Portland's been in playoff mode for 8 games, and Damian Lillard's been playing out of his mind. Mm-hmm. I'm not too worried about them. I think they have two dominant players, and I think that is going to be enough to carry them very far in the playoffs.
Oh, go ahead, Caleb.
I'm sorry. One last thing. So I'm with you. Here's my problem with LeBron James after that series. Comes out after the game, and his talking point is, "Oh man, this bubble business is really unfortunate. I wish we had fans here." Dude, are you kidding? Where is your head at? Like, you just lost to the Blazers. Can you imagine Michael Jordan after losing a game? If he lost a game 1 against an 8th seed, it wouldn't matter what context they were in. Like, he would be livid. He'd be like, no, we got to dial it in. We got to win the game. And I do think the Lakers are going to win probably pretty substantially in game 2. But I don't like that is where his head's at. He's talking about fans and how unfortunate the bubble is and complaining about this, that, and the other. Just play basketball, man. You're there to win a championship.
Right.
Like, that's not a Mamba mindset. What are you doing?
One last point, and then I will stop talking because I've kind of gone on a lot about the Lakers. I think that signals to how much better the Lakers think they are than the Blazers, and maybe that comes back to bite them. I don't think LeBron's concerned. He lost game 1 to the Pacers 2 years ago, and it went to 7 games, and it's still, he cruised to the finals after that. I think he is going to take his time getting into the series to be the dominant scorer, and maybe that comes back to bite him if Dame hits some unreal shots again. He's been awesome, of course, but I don't know. I'm not too worried. Game 2, if they lose badly, I'll be worried, but for right now, I'm not.
So this entire time, for those listening on Spotify or Apple, which you can check the Get Back guys at Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, Zach has been making just the most absurd facial expressions the entire time. So, Zach, why don't you chime in on this little debate these two had, and then as well give us a couple quick more thoughts on the bubble and other teams.
Yeah, I think the Lakers are clearly the favorite team here. The Blazers winning game 1 was a little surprising, but they're just sort of opposites. And when we're talking about like scoring, I sort of trust Damian Lillard to keep up this pace more than I trust Anthony Davis to break out of a slump that he sort of had since the bubble started. He's had a few really big games. The one against the Clippers stands out, but he's also had nights where he shot like 9 of 23. Last night he made a third of his shots, and he hasn't looked pretty much right since this bubble started. LeBron James has looked a little off ever since the bubble started. I don't think the Lakers are firing on all cylinders right now, and with their supporting cast, they can't afford not to fire on all cylinders. Even Danny Green, he had some really horrible air balls last night, he's not dialed in for a championship mode right now. I'm not calling an upset quite yet. I think the Blazers have a real chance. I picked the Lakers in 6. I still feel good about that. But Damian Lillard is one of the top 6 players in the NBA right now, and he is going to torch the guards on the Lakers every single night of this series. So it's really got to be on Anthony Davis. It has to be on LeBron James to keep up with that scoring pace, because no one on the Lakers is going to stop Damian Lillard from beyond the arc.
But
They had LeBron guarding him towards the end of the game.
And he torched LeBron too. I mean, it was, I don't want to say embarrassing, but it just, that lack of effort in the final minute by the Lakers. You're a 1 seed and you put that on display. We could talk about LeBron versus MJ all day long and go in circles, but MJ makes that 3 at the end of the game. And if he misses it, you better believe he's going after the ball. Fouling, doing whatever it takes to claw and scratch his way to the finish. The Lakers gave up. Flat out, everyone watching could tell it was
hard.
flat. What was that?
I said the bubble's really hard, though, man. You're not.
Yeah, no fans to motivate you. It was just a little bit disappointing from the Lakers. Everyone's talking them up to be this, team to beat, but they lost to the Blazers, and I really wasn't surprised. And so
Team
that's
to beat was down in South Beach, sir.
I picked the Clippers, so my mindset's a little different. But
I didn't know the Clippers played in South Beach. That's interesting.
Well, they're all playing pretty close to South Beach right now. In any case, as far as the bubble goes, I think a lot of what we expected to happen sort of did play out. I think the Blazers obviously got a big boost when Jaren Jackson went down with that torn meniscus. That's really helped them get within the 4 games they needed, and then they actually managed to overtake him too. So that was really awesome to watch Damian Lillard just light up the league. And I feel really bad for the Phoenix Suns. That's my main takeaway. They were awesome to watch, and I'm sorry that they didn't get a chance to at least play the play-in game. They're a team to look out for next year. They got a lot of promise.
I mean, I think I also feel really bad for the Mavericks, just because when the Blazers are probably not even in the playoffs. They don't even make the play-in game if KP doesn't get that foul out, and then they call a dicey foul on off-ball foul, or kind of a guy going towards it. So, there were some dicey calls that helped the Blazers get in the playoffs, and then right when the Mavericks get there, they're playing against the Clippers. They're playing awesome, and then KP gets thrown out of the game. That's, I don't know. And also on the Clippers front, the Mavericks without Kristaps Porzingis is Luka and a bunch of no names. Yeah. And for them to play that good and have a chance with that inexperience, barely any of those guys have played in the playoffs, for them to push the Clippers like that, I think there's no doubt that the Blazers, if you looked at the Blazers roster in the fourth quarter of the Lakers game versus the Mavericks roster in the fourth quarter of that game, the Blazers would probably beat that roster in 5 or 6 games easily if they played a series. So it's going to be interesting, because Kristaps is obviously an all-star caliber player. He's been playing amazing. I'm really curious to see how that series plays out, because that's another weird matchup thing where Kawhi, with the load that he has to take offensively, he can't guard Luka until the end of the game at all, and no one has kind of the length. Maybe Morris has the length to guard Kristaps Porzingis. So I think it's going to be an interesting series, but Clippers will probably win it for sure.
I don't think the Mavericks thought they were going to be there. I don't think they did. I think their team is built for 2 or 3 years from now, and they just kind of were good this year, and so they're rolling with it, and it's awesome. But yeah, I agree. It feels like the league is headed towards Giannis versus Luka as the next big rivalry, 2 awesome players, which is it's cool.
I do think
you go. I've talked.
Well, I was gonna say I do think the bubble has created the Blazers have a wild card Giants feel to me. They could go and they'll be really hot and it'll be legendary. And I think there's a few teams that could do that right now. There's some teams playing real well, and the good teams are playing kind of bad so far. I mean, it's one game.
Honestly,
it's one game.
The best showing out of all the good teams in the West was the Rockets, right? Russell Westbrook, and you blow out the Thunder. Like, I don't think the Thunder are that real, but I know Zach had the Thunder beating the Rockets. So James Harden played impressively for a team that's probably a tier below the true contenders. Seeing James Harden play that good without Russell Westbrook, maybe it's concerning because when Russ comes back, maybe he doesn't gel again or something. But James Harden showed up, and I know you don't like him, Caleb, but he was playing hard in the bubble.
I think the bubble has shown that. Sorry, go ahead, Caleb.
No, you're good. He's very good at basketball. There's no argument from me there.
I just think the bubble has created an environment where it really does feel like anybody could win it, and it's very nice that the Warriors are not in it. It feels good. Feels real.
Just wait till they win the
nice.
lottery tomorrow night, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, it can't be the Bulls. They got their run. They paid off all the sacrifices they made, and they're bad for the next 100 years. That's the rule.
So
Yeah, and you go.
after the couple first games here, who do we think? Are we still sticking with our favorites that we had before to win the finals, or who are our new legit contenders? Who are we thinking?
I think the Raptors are the one team that really improved their stock. I think a lot of people just thought the Bucks were going to roll, and the Raptors have come out, and even with a tight game today, they've looked really incredible. They beat the Lakers. I think they only lost one game in the bubble, and that was to the Celtics. And they just overall look like a team that's gelling at the right time. They have a lot of those pieces that beat Giannis and the Bucks last season. So I think the Raptors are a legit threat out of the East. I don't know if I'd pick them to beat the Lakers or the Clippers yet, though. They're in 7 at least.
Yeah, Heat takes them in 6 there. So sorry, bud. Kyle, you got any thoughts here on the NBA, my guy?
Well, I just think LeBron was distracted because I believe that same day he was showing off those Toon Squad jerseys for Space Jam 2.
Yes, sir.
So now that that's out of the way, he got that promotion done with. Now he's going to go off on a tear.
I don't get the hate that they got online. I thought the jerseys looked cool. I liked the little teaser LeBron put out there. I thought that looked cool. People are just mean to Space Jam because they hate LeBron and they think it's fun to hate Lebron. But I'm just throwing it out there. Space Jam 2, coming to a theater near you.
Beyond that, though, I don't have many other thoughts.
Nick, were you going to say something?
Yeah, what I was going to say also at the start is kind of echoing Zach. I'm really excited to see the Raptors-Celtics series because the Celtics are blowing out the Sixers right now handily. And the Celtics, I feel so bad for Gordon Hayward, though. What a brutal last couple of years from the hype that he had, and I do feel really bad for him. Maybe
at this moment
he'll end up on the Spurs and start averaging 40 a game.
At this moment, the Celtics are up 105-84 at the time of filming this podcast with 8 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, so, I think everyone kind of expected the Celtics to win, especially with Simmons getting hurt. But I like seeing Tatum and Siakam, those two young players, and Tatum's playing awesome tonight. I think he has 30 or 30 plus.
Jaylen Brown looked amazing in game 1 too.
Yeah, so that's going to be that's like a series I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, if I'm also think the Rockets and potentially Lakers, I think that series would also be really fun because I just want to see like James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and they're just again 2 guards going at the Lakers. I think will be interesting. Looking forward to the second round, but I think whatever team does come out of Raptors Celtics is going to end up playing really good basketball because those are both 2 teams that just have a lot of really good players. They're pretty deep, and they they have 5 guys on the court at all times who are just really quality players. I think the Raptors probably have a tick above, but if one of them beats the Bucks, I mean, I think Caleb's gonna be shocked. I think the Celtics actually how they've played and how the Bucks have played, I still would put them at number 3, but maybe it's not impossible. I still wouldn't say it's even likely, but I'm excited to watch the Raptors Celtics. That series is gonna be awesome. I think.
I like it.
Any other thoughts anybody's got on the bubble? Please don't hesitate.
I just can't believe the Spurs didn't make it.
We're close.
I know they gave up a 4-point lead with a minute left against the 76ers. If they win that game, then they don't rest their starters against the Jazz, and they probably make it into the playoffs or make it into the playoff game. But just because I can't help talking about the Spurs, I'm very excited about the future of Derek White and Lonnie Walker. I think they're going to be awesome, and that's all I'll say on the Spurs. And I hope they trade LaMarcus Aldridge anywhere.
There's Nick says he can't help but talk about the Spurs. I can help talking about my NBA team. I can restrain myself. I'm a get-back guy. I can get back off the Heat. Heat in 5, going to the finals. No one's talking about them because they're coming. They're hot. Jimmy Butler dropping dimes. LeBron can't hit shots. Guess who hit shots? Jimmy had 2 threes, and they were 2 clutch threes at the very end of the game to pull them over. That's how you win.
Too.
You guys might be playing the Magic in the second round.
Oh, that would be wild. What I'll say about Miami, a little over a year ago, Jimmy Butler was taking a blowtorch to Philadelphia. Just I haven't heard from him since. I don't know what they're doing in Miami. I don't know how they're getting all these guys on board in the program, but man, whatever they're doing down there, it works.
Look, Cat and Wiggins, you don't hear from them. They're not in the bubble. They're not in the playoffs. They're never that great. They're okay. Jimmy Butler didn't like their work ethic. He called them out, and they're not here. Meanwhile, he goes to Miami because he says he loves their work ethic, and Pat Riley says, come here. I got all these boys. They know how to play. Bam's a superstar. Nobody knows yet, but Bam is a superstar. Found this Nunn guy. Was out there. We got him. We got this hero. I like it. Jimmy's in. Now we're all in on the bubble. We're coming, Caleb. We are coming.
Any drama from Jimmy Butler in Miami? I don't think there has there?
No, everything I've heard, because there were a few interviews with Butler earlier in the year where they asked him about his drama in Philly and with the Wolves, and he said this team, the Miami team, they just want to work and they want to win. So they put in the effort, and he said no other team he's ever been on has put that type of effort in, and that's what he likes. He's a scrappy guy. He worked up to get where he is now. He always had to work hard, and I think that just resonated with him. And Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league that gets no love because they went from great. Don't roll your eyes at me, Zach. Do not roll your eyes. He gets love from 8 people. He's never in conversation for Coach of the Year, ever. He deserves more love. He should have won Coach of the Year when LeBron yeeted, and he took a Chris Bosh, who then got hurt 20 games in and had a serious injury, and Wade with no knees to the second round of the playoffs. You kidding me? That's a great coach. And he's got Pat Riley. Heater coming. That's my spiel. If anyone wants to fight, I will kick you off my show.
I think a really interesting thing, just looking at this year's postseason compared to last year's and the difference is if Kawhi Leonard misses one shot, if he misses that shot at the end of Game 7 and the 76ers win in overtime, and they could have beaten the Bucks, they had the talent to do it. I don't know if they would have, but just thinking about the difference in legacies of where Jimmy Butler, where the Sixers have gone. Obviously Ben Simmons is hurt, but they might get swept by the Celtics as a 6th seed versus being one shot away from beating what was the NBA champions. And then of course that shot obviously has made some silly people to think that Kawhi has a case within this year of becoming a top 5 player of all time, which is ridiculous. But that one shot has really changed everything, because if the 76ers win this and they do make it far, does Jimmy Butler leave if they make it to the finals? I don't know if they would have won the series, but he might not have. So I think that it's crazy how one shot can have such a big effect. One shot out of so many. That shot was one of the most important shots we've seen in years.
Any response to that by you two guests here?
I agree. It's true.
No, Zach's got about 80 thoughts.
Well, I was just going to say that a lot of the legacy talk is predicated on Kawhi winning another championship this year. And if he does that, he'll be the first player ever to have probably, it's not a sure thing. Paul George could get it, but if he wins the finals this year, I think most of us are thinking Kawhi will win finals MVP, and he'll be the first player ever to win finals MVP with 3 different teams. So I'm not saying
Not
that
if
he is a
Bronny
top
comes
5
and does
player.
it first.
Well, that's the
I
race
know.
really right now. But if he does that, I'm not saying he's a top 5 player of all time, but the legacy talk, like his impact on the league overall, you throw him in the conversation, top 10 probably in my mind, especially just given the people he's had to beat along the way. You know, he'll have beaten LeBron in the finals. He'll have beaten a dynastic Golden State Warriors. I know they weren't at full strength, but he did beat them. And then to take over the bubble and take the Clippers to a finals championship, you know, that's it's just pretty impressive. I don't really have a whole lot of other thoughts on the bubble otherwise. I just do want to give a shout out to Michael Porter Jr. Because he's really turned it on, and I've enjoyed watching him. And I regret deeply the Bulls didn't take him 2 years ago.
Yeah, what are your real quick? What are you guys' thoughts on the Nuggets? Because obviously, I got to watch them. I watched every game when they probably should have lost to the Spurs in the first round, and then they lose to Portland. And I think a lot of us thought that really the second best team in the West that year was probably the Rockets, and so that was on the weaker side of the bracket. But I mean, Jokic is good. Murray seems like if he's on for 4 of the 7 games, they have a really good chance to win some games. But sometimes he is just off, like he was today. They had just lost to the Jazz. But do you guys think the Nuggets could make some noise? And do you think they're going to beat the Jazz, or do you think they're just going to get crushed by the Clippers next round?
To me, they're
Go ahead.
So there's a couple teams that I put in the either a piece away or a year or two away category. I still think even though Dallas has played great, they haven't really in the bubble, but so even though Dallas did play great during the regular season, to me they're a couple years, a couple pieces away. Same with Memphis and Phoenix and then Denver. I put all of those 4 teams in the same category where they're really, really fun. And they've got young pieces, but they're probably a year or two away still.
Zach, did you have something you wanted to add there?
No, I agree. I think if Bol actually is as talented as he appears to be, and Porter Jr. continues to improve, they're going to have a big 4 that is going to be hard to contend with. I mean, Jokic might be the best center in the league. You have Michael Porter Jr., who is thought of as a generational talent before he hurt his back. You have Jamal Murray, who could be one of the top guards in the league with a little bit more progress if he could be more consistent, like Nick said. And then they do still have some more talent on that roster. It just Denver and Dallas both look like teams from the West that could be duking it out for the next few years, and that's exciting. And then you have Zion in the mix, and obviously Kawhi is probably not going anywhere. So the West
And
is
Bam.
going to
The West.
is going to.
But Bam,
being,
none here.
Just super competitive, which is really cool. Usually there's some, back and forth on which conference is powerful, but I don't see the West going anywhere anytime soon.
I think
I need it around. We need the West.
It's true. Yeah, I think the Nuggets could compete heavily with the Clippers and push them to a late series, but yeah, they're not going to be good enough late game unless Jamal Murray's playing really good. Because sometimes he turns it on, but far too often he doesn't. So I'm sure the Clippers will still beat them, but it should be a fun series if they do.
All
play.
right.
The Jazz have played okay.
All right. Well, I think we'll probably end the NBA chit chatter here as we get into sports. Kyle would like to speak so just calling you out there. Love you. So yeah,
Had a
guys,
heck of a Toon
Get Back
Squad
Guys
question for
podcast. Tune in. Episodes should be every Saturday at 11 with some smattering of other episodes throughout as we get close to the NFL season with these divisions. So check them out. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, guys.